Hello and welcome to the weekend wrap up by Fanalytics. Today we'll be going over game week 6, go over the 4 key matches as always, and then a quick roundup at the end. I think we know where to start with this, Matt. We've been saying before the podcast and stuff, we were waiting for Arsenal loss, and
Yeah,
it had to be Man United, didn't it?
yeah. It's always a difficult hunting ground for Arsenal. Whether no matter the form of both sides, really, it's one of those classic Premier League fixtures, and Arsenal have always had a sketchy record there, and United got the points on this occasion.
How did you feel going before the match? Do you think it was a draw? Or did you think?
Yeah, I think you'd always take a draw going to Old Trafford, even
Yeah.
even last season when United were sort of struggling. I think they were without a manager
Oh
when
yeah,
we
we
played
had
them.
Carrick, yeah.
Yeah, so even then would have taken a draw, especially considering we lost the game. But um, yeah, always disappointing, especially disappointing the way we played. But
Yeah, you guys were magnificent, I think. Like between the boxes, I think you were really good. I think
yeah,
creating chances, you do seem to have like a lot of a lot of touches within our box,
yeah,
but it didn't seem to create anything. The only chances I can remember is Odegaard's miscue shot and then Martinelli's header, which they saved.
yeah, it's true. It feels like that classic Arsenal where so good at getting the ball into the box, and Odegaard is especially guilty of seemingly looking for that pass when
Yeah.
he's in the box. Sometimes you want him to just put his foot through it, but I think you're right in terms of the Arsenal performance. I think in the days leading up to the game, I think Arsenal, if they would have spoken about how they would want the game to go, that it pretty much played out exactly how they would have wanted or exactly how they would have planned it. First 20, United came out all guns blazing, crowd behind them,
Yep.
and it felt like Arsenal were ready for that and just sort of sat in, tried
hmm
to just soak up the pressure, which they did pretty well. And then after 20 minutes, they got going and started to control the game. But yeah, I think that's what let them down is just that inability to create chances. I mean, Gabriel Jesus was terrific in this game. 65 touches. Only Saliba had higher in the on the entire pitch. 5 key passes. Created 2 shots for himself as well.
hmm
It, it's an all round performance from your number 9, and you do kind of want to see him get going in the goals department a bit more.
Yep.
Um, but there was always that fear with Gabriel Jesus, and I don't think he's necessarily been brought in to score 30 goals a season. Just as long as he gets more than Lacazette was getting.
Yeah, that 15 to 20 goal range, I'm guessing.
Yeah, especially because it's that link up play, and that he brings a tenacity up front. I
Yeah.
absolutely love it. He was getting the better of Varane
Yeah.
for much of this game, and Varane almost looks twice his size out there, but he's feisty, Gabriel Jesus. I love that about him. He keeps the ball well. These players that play for Man City, that is their MO: keep possession of the ball, and
That's true.
he's great at that.
The one thing I know about Jesus from coming from Man City, where you didn't really see it because he was always running in behind, but it's kind of bringing the ball down and hold up play is exquisite. Like he's not like the biggest guy on the pitch, but he can sort of barge Varane out of the way and then chest it perfectly. I was like,
Yeah,
that was really impressive.
yeah, because I think it's it's a skill that these number 9s have, where it's not necessarily just being strong. It's not just about that. It's timing it.
Yeah.
It's just timing, because there's always that little nudge on the defender just before the ball comes. You've got to time that right. Harry Kane's very good at doing that.
hmm
Very cute. Just gives you that extra half yard, gives you a chance to just bring the ball down, and he is really good at that.
Yeah, that's one of the key things I've noticed last few games I've been watching him for Arsenal, particularly. Like, I think
Yeah,
when Arsenal were linked with, I think was it Valanic or they were looking with Isaac and they were linked with Doma Cavalier. It was these kind of bigger presence. And I think
yeah,
it's quite always good to have like a target man, but Jesus can do that, and I never
yeah,
thought he could do that.
yeah. I think the days of the sort of more diminutive strikers being one-trick ponies.
Yeah.
They're gone. Strikers have to have it all now. We've spoken about that before in these one-man up-front systems. But to move on to United, they obviously first couple of games were dreadful, but look, they found a way over the last 4 games. It's not been perfect. That 42% possession isn't really what you'd expect from a United side. It's historically anyway, but
Yeah.
I think that's just a sort of indicator of where they are right now. Ten Hag he's getting results out of them, which is the most important thing. They've only conceded 2 goals in these 4 games, at home to Arsenal, at home to Liverpool, even at Leicester, at Southampton. Those teams are capable of scoring goals. That's an impressive record.
Yeah,
in those 4 wins.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think before the season, everyone thought Ten Hag was in the mold of, and even I thought same mold as Pep and Arteta, in terms of they had this kind of play style they want to implement, and they're going to stick to it. But he's been more flexible. I think Arteta, to be fair, was a bit more flexible at the start as well.
I you can't come in and just say, right, this is how I'm going to play.
Yeah,
make it happen. We've seen managers do that, like De Boer at Palace, and it never took off. And he lasted a month.
Yeah.
So you can't, and we know Manchester United have a lot of issues that need resolving, and there's no way he's going to go in there and be able to do that. He doesn't have the personnel to be able to do that. So fair play. This is what you have to do. Arteta done it when we won the FA Cup.
Yeah,
a couple of years ago. We played a really sort of defensive style and tried to hit them on the counter attack, getting the ball to Aubameyang, and it worked brilliantly. And yeah, that's what United's strength is transitions. Has been for the last few years, really, going back to Solskjaer.
Yeah.
And to be fair, these fixtures have sort of lined up quite nicely in that, Liverpool and Arsenal, 2 teams that like to control the ball.
Yeah.
That plays perfectly into United's hands. And at Old Trafford, in both those games, big rivals, you're going to have the crowd behind you. Even with things as bad as they were at United, the crowd are going to turn up for Liverpool at home. They're going to turn up for Arsenal at home. And it feels like they've used that. The Leicester and Southampton performances, there was hiccups. It wasn't perfect games of football, but they're showing at least a little bit of resilience, which we said that they had to do.
Yeah, so I definitely think like fixing our defense was probably the biggest issue in terms of defense against people in possession, but also defending transition ourselves. We've been really bad over the last few years, and that's why I thought we bought Casemiro. But McTominay's done pretty well this game, which we'll talk in a bit. But yeah, I agree. Like, I think the Martinez, Malaysia, Dalot, and Varane back 4 is really solid, and I like the aggressiveness of it. It's not like they're just going to sit, try and read the game. They're actually pressing from the front, and they're actually trying to like get in front of their attackers. It's a bit of like a petulant sometimes, like with Martinez stamping on Jesus' foot. But I kind of like that.
Well, I have to say, Martinez, he is very aggressive at the point of contact, very aggressive. Yeah. But one thing I do actually quite like about him, I don't think he's got that petulant streak, the one that gets players into trouble.
Sent off, yeah.
He has a really great way of he'll go in as hard as anything for the challenge, whether it's a free kick, whether he wins the ball, then he just turns around and it's done. Plays over, that's it. He's done with it. Yeah. I love that. That's a great, because one thing I noticed about Anthony in this game.
Oh yeah, he's got that.
He's got that petulance. Yeah, it was a problem at Ajax.
He's got a few red cards.
Look, that's got to go. That you saw what happened to Nunes a few weeks ago for Liverpool. That's going to be something that teams are going to target now. And some of the stronger players in that United dressing room, which there are many, for all their problems, they do have strong characters in that dressing room. I think he needs to learn fast, because he is going to be a target. He got away with one where he really swiped out at someone, and thankfully for him, got absolutely nowhere near the player.
And he even tackled Mctominay at one point.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
But yeah, in terms of Ten Hag signings, I think they've all been pretty good hits. I know Casemiro's waiting to see, but I think what we didn't expect is Ericsson. When he got for free agent, we thought maybe he might be just a rotational player for wide or center attacking mid. We know he played as an eight kind of six for Brentford, but could you do that for Man United? And he's kind of filled that void that I think Ten Hag wanted for De Jong. Like in this game, four shot career actions, and I think they could have got more higher with the progressive passes in the FBref, but it was there. 3 key passes and 35 passes, which is the highest for Man United players.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think Ericsson's one of those sort of very intelligent players, and he's not your prototype winger, but he's always had great success out wide.
Yep.
He's not a prototype 6, but it doesn't overly surprise me that he's found some success there. I don't think he's sort of a long-term answer there, and he definitely would need a sort of a guy like McTominay next to him in the 8 position.
The defensive prowess is not there. Yep.
Yeah, who's going to sort of be a ball winner, because he's not a ball winner.
No.
But yeah, certainly for the distributor kind of role, the deep line playmaker sort of quarterback, he's great. He's great at that.
Yeah, and definitely. And let's talk about his midfield partner. This was game week 1 or 2, I believe, against Brentford.
2. Yeah, this is the Brentford game. I brought this up.
Yeah, 0 tackles, 0 progressive passes, 69 parts per completion, and only 55 of the distance. And then we take it to this game against Arsenal and a team in form. 3 tackles, and I think all the 3 tackles they won possession with. 2 progressive passes.
Well, one of them was a rugby tackle.
I don't think that counts in the stats.
Yeah, it didn't even register as a tackle. Such was the quality of it.
96 pass completion, which is, I think he only missed 1 pass. I think 24 at 25 or something like that. And then 120 progressive distance. But yeah, he's not there to progress the play. He sort of did simple passes. And I think the way Bruno and Ericsson kind of move around him, they do the kind of easy passes now. I think years go by, we expect maybe too much from his passing. But he's there to like break up the play, provide aerial dominance, and just provide hard work. And he's kind of got that attributes for it.
Yeah, I think by now we know what we're going to get with Scott McTominay. He's not going to surprise us with anything now. I do like him as a kind of workhorse in the centre of the park.
Yeah,
United have always had those players. You think back to the Ferguson years, they always seem to have players like McTominay, guys very unheralded, not much to sort of
Fletcher.
look at. Yeah, Darren Fletcher is the one that really springs to mind. And yeah, obviously it was a shocking display against Brentford a few weeks ago, and this is kind of more what I expect from him. He is someone who likes to get involved defensively and get stuck in. He should get a lot more yellow cards than he gets, but
I saw the stat. He got 5 fouls this game, not 1 yellow card.
I don't know what it is. I mean,
it's because he runs away.
There's only so long you can get away with that many fouls. He is somewhat fortunate, but he did eventually get booked for the rugby tackle.
Yeah, but this is good to see from Man United. We got some stern tests ahead, but I'm quite glad to see that we've turned it around. I was a bit worried to start the season because it's the almost same kind of score as last season, where when things go wrong, it keeps going wrong. So
I will just slam the brakes slightly in that, this is still the same United team that lost 2-1 at Brighton, that lost 4-0 at Brentford.
It's still some of our signings in there, like Malacia.
I like Malacia. I love that signing. I loved it when you made it, just because it's low risk, high reward. But I don't love some of the other signings. I don't love signing a guy who at 30 years old has won everything there is to win on high wages. It's a recipe.
It's a very short
can go wrong.
Very short.
And it's a recipe that United have used for a long time unsuccessfully. Anthony is a lot of money, but I guess United are to an extent always going to overpay for players. But they are still an inconsistent team. It's an imperfect team that has still flaws. that I think at the moment Ten Hag's doing a great job of just finding a way to paper over it for now.
Yeah, play to our
But
strength. More like.
yeah, and I think United fans, don't don't basically go mad when you have a couple of bad results, because Arsenal have been down that road where you have those 4 or 5 games, those shoots of recovery where you think, yeah, we're there now, and it's a process. Just it's about the journey, not the destination. Yeah.
Lovely. Stay tuned for more motivational quotes. On to our next match. Two promoted teams battling out in the Premier League. Nottingham Forest with Bournemouth. Bournemouth did terrific to come back from 2-0 down. I remember not watching, but looking at my phone, 2-0 to Nottingham Forest. I thought they had it in the bag, to be fair. Didn't think Bournemouth could score 3 goals.
Yeah, this is surprising, especially considering the 2-0 lead at half time. But you got to give Bournemouth some credit here. We in particular have been very, very critical of them for the way they played in that 3-game stretch.
Yeah.
Even considering it's top 6 sides, I don't think you can go out and play that poorly consecutively like that. But if you look at their 3 other games, they've got a great record. Those 3 games against top 6, obviously 0 points, 3 losses, no goals, 16 conceded. The other 3 games, they've got 7 points from that. They're unbeaten, 5 goals scored, just 2 against, 2 clean sheets. That is the recipe to stay up. Try to avoid the absolute spankings that they've taken against the big 6. But look, the games that you need to pick up points in, and they've done a great job of doing that so far.
Yep, I definitely think so. I think we can compare the 2 teams. Bournemouth haven't had that many signings as well, so
yeah, that lost Scott Parker's job, it seems. But yeah, and I'm still not really sure what their identity is, Bournemouth, and I think that's something that could work in their favour. To be fair, I think they could just be a team that has a slight chameleon quality to them, where they'll just kind of dig out results any way they can in these kind of games. Fair play to them. I think that, especially considering the lack of investment, I think that's their route to survival.
Yeah, I can agree with that. In terms of this match, the things I noticed is at halftime they brought off, I think his name Zerma for the right back, and they went to a back 5. As you can see in this kind of position map, it's going to be kind of a hybrid of the 2 halves. I think they played like Billing and Solanke as 2 target man. They got Tanvir and Christie to run off them, as you can see, number 10, number 16. That's a very straight 4 line of the attackers there, which you don't normally see. You normally see it kind of spread out. I think that tactical change of turning to a back 3 allowed them to have more width, which they didn't have in the first half. I think this will be the way forward for them, because Solanke's great, yeah. Billing as a number 10 is massive. I think they have to utilize these kind of strengths.
Yeah, I think that is the way, and probably a large part of it was trying to match up with Forest with their wing backs as well. But yeah, this is what we're saying. Look, be flexible and be willing to change things, go out of what the comfort zone is, what the plan was perhaps for certain games, and just find ways to get results. And it does show a lot of character, because it's been a very, very tough start to the season. A lot of teams, we've seen teams like Norwich and Fulham in the past where they've almost felt resigned to the drop in like September, October. To be fair to Bournemouth, I had them in that category, but they keep getting results like this, then they've got a great chance of staying up.
Very true. And with Forest, what did you think of Forest this season? A lot of signings, maybe not the right results.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say whether it's a tactical thing, whether it's just he's not quite sure on his personnel yet. But the defensive stats are quite alarming. I think they've got the highest XG against. They face the most shots per 90, and they face the most shots on target per 90. and all three of those are surefire ways to lose a lot of games.
Yeah.
They do feel like they're a team that's got goals in them, which is a good thing. If you're going to be bad defensively, you need goals. But generally, teams that concede a lot of goals, that come up and concede a lot of goals, don't stay in the division. It tends to be the ones that find a way to keep clean sheets. You think of Wolves in the past and Sheffield United.
Yep.
Teams like that, they were very, very good defensively. And I thought Forest would be a bit better defensively.
That's
Again,
what I
maybe
thought,
maybe this is just a personnel thing, and look, they have played Man City during this time. That's always going to inflate the stats somewhat against them. But yeah, it's been a bit up and down. There's certainly been some good moments when I've watched Forest this season that I think, yeah, this is a team that's going to do very well. They played very well against Tottenham. I thought they'd done well against West Ham in a game where West Ham had a lot of chances. So did Forest, created a lot.
Yeah.
So, it's far from doom and gloom. They've got plenty of time to turn it around. There's always ways to get better defensively, but they do need to.
Yeah, I agree with you there. The team in transition, you make that many signings, especially first team signings, it's always going to take time. And like they've brought many kind of attackers and midfielders, not many centre backs from what I can recall.
There's one. There is one centre back near Kite or something like that, who I saw against West Ham. He looked very good in that game, but he came off injured.
Ah, okay, that's why.
I'm not sure if that's something he's still struggling with, but yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the first, we said it already, I think they're going to spend a lot of time over the next month or two still figuring things out, and maybe the World Cup might come at a good time for Forest.
Yeah, international break as well.
Just thinking of that massive break, maybe that will be helpful to them in giving them that bit more time, sort of like a second pre-season almost, to just iron out a few of these creases.
Yeah, true. I think for me, the one signing that I've enjoyed watching since watching Forest is Gibbs White. Obviously, he came from Wolves like two game weeks in for about 25 million. That could rise to 45 million, which is extraordinary money for someone who hasn't played in the Premier League or any kind of top league. But he did really well in the Championship, and I think Steve Cooper knows his time from being at Swansea and under-17 World Cup in India, where he did really well as well. And the thing I like about him, he kind of drives into space, he does layoffs, he can get a goal, he's a very good shot, set piece delivery as well. He's got these kind of good attributes for number 10, but also kind of physically built. And he's still young, physically built for the Premier League too.
Yeah, he is an exciting player to watch. And there's been a lot of talk about him in the past few years. He's always been a guy sort of on the back burner, ready to break out at any given time.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right, very technical. But he has that physical style alongside it, which English players historically lack the technical side of it.
Yeah.
But always have that physical side. Nowadays, we're seeing a lot more of these guys coming through who mix physicality and technicality. Bellingham springs to mind. I see a bit of Bellingham in Gibbs White.
Yeah, I can see that.
And yeah, they're sort of deploying him almost as a false nine at times, sort of as a sort of makeshift striker. We'll see how long they sort of persevere with that, because even Brennan Johnson, who highly rated as well, I love watching him.
Mm-hmm.
They both feel more like attacking midfielders than forwards.
Yeah,
I'd prefer a big number 9.
But he did sign that number 9 who came on.
Yeah,
he got that big chance right at the end as well.
So yeah, hopefully they play him more, because I like those two playing off him. I think that's very exciting front line for Forest. And yeah, guys like Gibbs White, look, there's goals in this Forest team. There's no doubt about it. I just think once they sort of iron out a few of these personnel issues and what their best team is, I think we'll see a pretty decent Forest side.
Yeah, looking forward to see how they progress with the new signings. 19 is quite a lot.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair to them, they did lose about 19 in the summer. It was
That's even
hectic.
bigger job, right?
Yeah,
Let's go to our next match, which is Brighton and Leicester. Leicester continue their bad run of form, even though they scored in the first minute, but Brighton showed their class and thumped them 5-2.
yeah. This is not going to be a fun season for Leicester fans. It feels like.
No.
You know, look, Brighton are a good side. There's no shame in losing to Brighton. We seem to keep saying that. It feels like we have to keep reminding people that yes, Brighton are a very good team. But Leicester are not in a good place. I know they've lost, Fofana.
It's Michael.
But Fofana and Schmeichel, okay, they've lost a huge leader in at that club in Schmeichel, but they've still got guys like Maddison, Vardy. Tielemans didn't get his move away.
Yep.
And to be fair to him, Tielemans seems like up for it. He doesn't seem like a player that whose head's gone kind of thing.
He's a player with quite good leadership skills, to be fair.
Yeah,
he was captain for Anderlecht and football.
Yeah, from a very young age. So they have got good leaders in that dressing room. Is it just a complete confidence loss in the manager? Because it felt like they sort of lost confidence. That Rodgers lost confidence in the team last season.
Yeah,
because he
yeah,
switched to that back five, which I never liked for Leicester. I never liked it. It never felt right for them. And they still conceded a lot of goals, even with the back three.
Yeah.
But yeah, and now I don't know. Is it just completely gone?
It could be.
I think starting to feel that way.
I think with Rodgers, like we've seen in the past, with he did really well at Liverpool, and then they got into they nearly won the league. Next season, they're in Champions League as well, and they seem to kind of loss of ideas. It was the same kind of story at Celtic.
Yeah.
He's got a track record of this kind of peaking, and then can he get the team back on the right lane? I don't know if he can, to be fair.
Yeah, it's starting to feel like that. But look, back to Brighton.
Mm-hmm.
They've been brilliant, and Gross talked about him before how he's been such a key player for Brighton over the past few years. Really, since they came into the Premier League, he's been a sort of creative hub for them. And in this game, I mean, 9 shot creating actions, 2 goal creating actions, 5 key passes. That's brilliant stuff, and they do deploy him quite a lot of different areas. We talk about that with Brighton as well, how players move around, switch positions quite a lot. Yeah. Not even just game to game, in game.
In game, yeah.
they're moving all over the pitch. So guys like him and some of the other attackers they've got, like Trossard, who you'll talk about in a bit as well. That ability to sort of move around and play different positions, play different roles, they are just a nightmare to come up against. They will show one thing and then half an hour later they're doing something different. And look, if they can keep getting goals like this, then they are going to be pushing for Europe. They're not just going to be a team on the outskirts of it. They're going to be right in the thick of it, because that's been the only thing holding them back the last couple of years.
Was goals. Yeah,
putting the ball in the back of the net, and they still seem to be deploying midfielders in attacking areas, just really due to the absence of a number 9. But fair play to them, it's working.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Like, if you think you're opposition scout looking at Brighton, you think, okay, they're gonna play this way. And then they come in game and they play that way. 10 minutes in, it's a complete different formation.
Yeah.
Trotters up the pitch. Mbrepo is a striker now. Like, how are you meant to deal with that? I could see why defenders are like, who are marking it? Who's in this position?
It's true. It's hard enough for us just to talk about what they're doing. we don't have to come up with a plan to sort of play against it. They're a great team. I love what Graham Potter's doing there.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, on to, like you say, with Gross. I mean, we could choose any of the midfield Leicester players. They all seem to be popping up with goals and chances. So like Gross, Trossard, and McAllister had 2 great goals. 1 goal was offside. Was it offside? But yeah, it was a long range shot. And then even March, like every week I see March have 1 big chance per game. He should have like 5 goals already.
Yeah, he's just one of those like work hard players as well, isn't he? Just like he's got a beautiful left foot. He's one of those classic cultured left foot kind of guys. But yeah, they just seem to have a lot of those players who just get coached up.
Hmm. I think with like Martin Trossard, it's quite similar because they both can play wing back positions, and they're both like left wing, right wing, and they can play in like I think last match March was like a number 10. Trossard was a striker last match, so it's a great flexibility. And in this game, Trossard got 6 shot creating actions, 14 progressive passes, and 9 progressive carries. This week he was more the creative hub, but in the previous weeks he'd be the one that was taking more shots inside the penalty box. It's so hard to you come up against a player and you think they're going to play a certain way, and they change their playstyle completely.
Yeah, it's certainly a weapon that Brighton are utilising really well. This variation in attacking areas, and he feels to be slightly more consistent at the start of this season. Whether it's just that Brighton are just in a good run of form in general, and everyone's sort of blossoming out of that, but that was the only thing really holding him back last season, right? He flashed great potential last year. And those are awesome numbers. And I know Leicester are struggling and are pretty poor defensively, but he's been putting up decent numbers week in, week out this season. I think this could be a breakout year for him.
Yeah, I really hope so. I think last season he got 10 goals or 8 goals, I think. He's already on 2. This could be a good season for him.
Yeah, definitely.
I think we talk about Brighton's attackers, but I guess we have to talk about Leicester City keeper. We alluded that Schmeichel has left, and they got Danny Ward from Liverpool 3 years ago. He's got a starting berth, but it's not going great.
No, it's not going great. I mean, those numbers: 16 goals conceded at 9.1 xG.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's only a couple of teams that have conceded more than Leicester. One of them is Bournemouth, who conceded 9 in one game, so not altogether unsurprising.
Yeah.
But 42.3 save percentage. That is 21st out of 22 goalkeepers in the Premier League. Only Travers of the aforementioned Bournemouth is lower than him. And 2 errors leading to goals. No other player has multiple. I think he's been Wales number 1 for a while. So it's not like he's been starved of like
game time
action at that sort of level.
Yeah.
He's played to a certain level. And to be fair, he isn't being helped out by that Leicester defence. It was leaky last season, even with Schmeichel in goal. So it's not all on him, but he doesn't inspire confidence, and then it becomes almost a self-fulfilling prophecy with an already bad defence that doesn't trust its keeper becomes an even worse defence, right? And they can't do anything about it until January unless they put Everson in goal. I mean, even that, I mean, you can't be chopping and changing goalkeepers every other week though. That's not a recipe for success either.
Yes, when I'm watching him play, I can always feel the uncertainty around him. The ball comes in the box, he flaps at it. His shot saving, his kind of positioning, 1-on-1s ain't great.
Yeah, the communication with the centre backs just isn't there. I noticed that in the Arsenal game, which obviously I watched quite very intently.
Or was it the game he spilled it and was a Xhaka?
That was that game as well. But there was also ones where the ball's coming to him and it just needs a cool mind, and defenders are panicking, clearing it in front of him. It's a nightmare at the moment, and I think part of the problem was we didn't really hear about the Schmeichel situation until quite a way into the transfer window.
It was rapid. It was like one day he might be for sale, and then next day he's been released.
I don't know whether it was always their intention. I think it kind of was, because he was one of the really big earners that they needed to get off the wage bill.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe that played a part in the fact that it just doesn't feel right with the keeper and defence at the moment.
Definitely. And we talk about Leicester City defence being decimated, but their attack this season not great either. considering the attacking talents they have and still have.
Yeah, I mean, we expect goals from Leicester. That's, guys like Maddison and Vardy that we've spoken about before. They've always been a team that is capable of scoring way above their XG, right? Especially
Yeah.
with those sort of set pieces and long range efforts. Dewsbury Hall can hit them as well from distance. He's shown that already this season. But 0.92 XG per game, 15.2 shot creating actions, 9.83 shots per 90. These are all bottom three stats. And so you put all this together that we're talking about. It's a team that is very poor defensively and is really poor going forward as well. I mean, it's a disaster at the moment. It's a complete disaster.
Yeah, and the players they have, this is kind of inexcusable. This is what I would say if I was the board looking at Rodgers.
Yeah.
Fair enough, your defense got dismayed. You have to play Ndidi there, but you still got Maddison, Tillsman, Dewsbury Hall, Barnes, Vardy, Daka. These players can score against anyone. I mean, they just scored 2 goals this game, but
Yeah.
they should be threatening the goal. They should be at least getting to the penalty box, getting some good quality chances, and not relying on like previous games. It was just Maddison long shots that was going in.
Yeah, and to be fair, we're not just basing this Brendan Rodgers stuff off of 6 games this season.
Yeah.
This is going back to last season as well, where they underperformed massively. And maybe it's unfair to criticize them for not making the top 4 in those 2 years in a row. But when you get yourself into those kind of positions, and it feels like they kind of spent money like a team that did finish in the top 4.
Yep.
Which is never a good idea, because they're in a pretty desperate position financially. I think the wage bill and stuff, I think it's a massive hole that they're looking at FFP wise. I don't know how much truth there is to those kind of rumors, but it would explain the sort of panic sort of selling that they've had to do over the summer and the lack of signings. And yeah, Brendan Rodgers feels like a manager where he can build it up, he can create something, he can help instill the culture and develop a team, take it to that peak that we spoke about earlier. But he doesn't feel like the right manager when things are going wrong and they need someone to steady the ship. And I think it might get to a point where sooner rather than later they look to bring that guy in that will steady the ship, because they're way too good to be hanging around the bottom 3.
Yeah, completely agree. And from 2 teams that are performing quite well in the season is Brentford and Leeds. I didn't really expect Brentford to beat Leeds 2-1, but here we are.
Yeah, I mean, Brentford's games have been very, very exciting this season. There's a lot of goals.
Both ends, yeah.
Yeah, both ends, yeah. And it kind of is surprising, but then with these 2 teams, I don't find it that surprising. It could have finished 5-2 to Leeds, and I would have still been sat here feeling pretty much the same way about it. They are 2 teams that transition quickly and can create chances quickly, but equally, that can get them in trouble at times.
Yeah, you can see the Brentford passes are only 141 passes.
They're direct.
They're very
direct. Yeah.
We talk about Leeds being direct, but at least they sort of pass it on the floor and then they go direct. Brentford are very direct.
Well, they got the big man up front, don't they?
Mm-hmm. Mr. Ivan Toney. Yeah, he was phenomenal this game. Scored that free kick. Needs scored another free kick, was inches wide, penalty, and then that chip at the end. It was a very good hat trick from a very low XG chances. But overall this season, he's got 5 goals, 4th in the Premier League now, out of 2.7 XG. But I think the free kicks and the chip kind of elevates that a bit. Yeah, 1.9 XA, 4 goal creating actions, joint 2nd and 3rd, and then 33 goal conversion. So he's already had 15 shots. Now, I always imagine Tony in the next season or in the season after, hopefully next season, he will go to like a Champions League or a European club because he doesn't really get the service. I mean, he gets the balls on top and he sort of lays it off for Mbeumo and stuff, but in a team where he's probably supplied more inbox chances, I would love to see him in there.
Yeah, I don't know about top six because he's either going to go to a top six side and be a kind of rotation option, which, does he want that for his career? Or he can sort of go to a more established Premier League side, a side that's pushing for European contention and be the main man.
Yep.
A side like, I know West Ham just signed Scamacca, but that sort of side that has been pushing for Europe the last couple of years, were Leicester not in such desperate straits, maybe he might be a guy they'd look to replace Vardy. But it does feel right now that he could go anywhere he wants because he seems to have it all, right?
Yeah, he's a great scorer, got free kicks now. He can play lovely passes. I think that's, as a guy, a big man who can sort of header in the air as well. He's got a very lovely pass, left foot and right foot. He's a bit like the most, don't want to say like too controversial, but he's probably closest thing to Kane in a sense. In terms of he can drop deep and play those kind of passes. Not probably at the Kane's level at the moment, but he's still relatively young.
But that completeness, takes up good positions. It's that link up with Mbeumo that we always talk about as well. Similar to the Kane and Son sort of link up that they've always had. I think you're right. And look, we said it that the only thing missing from Tony's game was just a few more goals.
Yeah.
So far, and on that kind of evidence, the goals are coming.
Yeah, he's nearly halfway of his goal tally last season. I think he got 12 goals last season, so going well for him. But I think you wanted to highlight the difference between Brentford and Leeds. We compared that they're kind of similar in their directness.
Yeah, quite different styles where Leicester not Leicester, Leeds last season were a team that liked to sort of dribble at players. That was their transition style, run vertically. Now they're much more of a sort of passing vertically side, and but it's more the output of these two sides. You think of both sides are top 10 in goals, XG, shots per 90. Quite similar in a lot of those stats as well. I know Brentford have scored slightly more goals, but even from a defensive standpoint as well, they have conceded very similar number of goals, 9 and 10.
Yep.
Similar XG against, and shots faced per 90 isn't altogether that different as well. Leeds only just creep outside the top 10 in terms of shots faced. But yeah, this is what I mean, where these two teams, they just feel it could have been 5-2, it could have been 2-5 to either side here. They're both like exciting teams to watch. And I really rate both their managers. Keep talking about Jesse Marsh, which I still haven't got better at saying. I keep talking about Marsh week after week. Because I've been so impressed with Leeds. I love the signings they made. I love their style of football. I love that they've sort of stayed true to this identity that they've sort of created for themselves since they came into the Premier League.
Yep.
And, I know Leeds have historically been quite a despised club by anyone outside of West Yorkshire. They're very likable now. Yeah. I have to say, I even as a United fan, you must find it hard to hate Leeds.
Yeah, maybe because they're not a threat at the moment. maybe if they were a threat, maybe I would feel differently. But yeah, I completely agree with you in terms of I do love the way they play. It's full throttle. It's moving the ball quickly up through the thirds. And very similar to Brentford, but obviously Brentford a bit more long balls, don't want to hold on to the ball as much.
Yeah.
But I think, I agree. I'm loving this season where we got Brentford, Leeds, Newcastle, Crystal Palace, I'm forgetting someone, Brighton, of course. These are all teams that have elevated their games It's
Yeah.
sort of like the Premier League standards has gone much higher this season, and it's good to see because now top 6 sides have to actually really dig deep to beat these teams.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It feels like there's a lot of good teams so far in the Premier League this season. So there's going to be good teams finishing in the bottom half of the table, not just good teams on paper, good teams in practice.
Yeah.
And that can only be good for the Premier League. For the quality, and I'm here for it. And these two teams, another thing about these two teams, with Leeds, I'm not worried for them after losing 5-2. It feels like these two teams can sort of recover from those kind of games because it just feels like they're going to have these kind of weeks. The style of football that they play,
it
is quite high risk, high reward at times. But it just comes with the territory. It just feels like they will recover from it, bounce back, and potentially put in good result next week.
Yeah, definitely. Hello and welcome back. We're now going to do a quick fire round of the remaining matches. So let's start off with the Merseyside derby. Everton-Liverpool 0-0.
Yeah, and I said it last week that I was starting to give Everton a bit of credit now because they are a team that on paper is really lacking in certain areas.
Yep.
I don't really fancy their squad over 38 games, but they are showing a lot of heart. And in fairness to Frank Lampard, they seem to be really playing for him.
Yep, I agree with that. And I think transferring to a 4-3-3, I think I do like the player Onana. When I watched highlights of his match, he was covering that defense, and then even during the second half, he was high up the pitch as a box-to-box. It's a good signing. And Mopé, like, we've seen him at Brighton, he just doesn't finish his chances, and we saw in this match the same thing. But
yeah, it's a weird,
really.
Yeah, it's a weird signing to make, just because, like you said, he's not going to surprise us all of a sudden. Liverpool, it's another sort of 2 drop points, right? I mean, but it's always difficult going to Goodison Park. I spoke about Arsenal going to Old Trafford. It's always the same in those sort of games where it's never a freebie. It never will be a freebie in these games. And even at the back end of last season at Anfield, Liverpool in form, Everton bang out form at the time. Liverpool really had to work hard for like a 1-0. So it's always going to be like that in these games. And Liverpool, they had a couple of really good chances. Pickford, it's either an amazing performance by Pickford or he leaves you slightly questioning something. But yeah, fair play to Everton. They're picking up points now, and they seem to be really playing hard for Lampard.
Yeah, and I'm just going to do a quick note on Liverpool. I think they really are missing Thiago. I know they got this Melo. Hopefully he can kind of bring something of the similar sorts. But I thought they did improve when they brought Firmino as number 10. I think we mentioned it last week that they should try that. And they did look more dangerous, with Salah connecting with Firmino and Nunez in the box. I think that should be their way to go forward if Melo's not like up to speed.
Yeah.
But I guess
I think yeah, it's good to know that Jurgen Klopp's a fan of the podcast. But yeah, it's weird with Liverpool, just quickly on that Thiago thing, where it felt for the first sort of 2 or 3 years of Liverpool being really good under Klopp, that they almost didn't really need a midfield. A lot of their play really bypassed it. It was very vertical. But last couple of years, they've really adapted to a different style with Thiago in the side, that sort of control in possession. Trent has moved more centrally as an inverted fullback rather than one that bombs forward down the wing. And it feels like they've adapted to that style, and perhaps they've lost that kind of real gung-ho clinical style going forward, because it does feel that they're not just finding it difficult to create really, really big chances this season.
Yeah, but I think they're definitely more possession-based team. They were a bit more like Leeds, like vertically fast.
Yeah.
But now they're definitely suited to more possession-based, kind of probing, and then getting probably Nunez in the box, probably a chip ball or cross in a certain good position. So But yeah, they are missing Thiago so much.
Yeah.
And let's go to Newcastle and Crystal Palace 0-0. But I think Newcastle were very unfortunate not to win. They were dominating this game. I think Trippier had like six creative chances. I think the most of everyone.
Yeah, it felt like their game against Forest, which I think was on the opening day, where Newcastle just dominated the game, and it took them a long time to break down Forest in that one. Palace are tricky customers.
Yeah.
Obviously not their best performance, but they are very good defensively. They really make you work to break them down, and this gauntlet that they've had at the start of the season, really, of fixtures. They've had some really nasty games. I think they'll take what they've got, and they might still be disappointed about the way they sort of almost lost points against Manchester City, as weird as that sounds to say.
Yeah.
But they're a good team, and they feel quite similar teams, Newcastle and Palace. I think end of the season, I don't think there'll be much between those sides. Both have improved a lot defensively under their new managers. Have very exciting players going forward as well, the pair of them.
Yep. Yeah, they've even had like similar fixtures, right? City, Liverpool, Crystal Palace probably just slightly harder. But yeah, Newcastle, I do like the Isaac signing. He had again another big chance. They're missing Bruno Guimaraes and who else they were missing? But yeah, they're missing Maximan as well.
Yeah,
so
that's one thing I've noticed about Newcastle. They made some great signings since January, but when there's one or two players injured, I'm looking at a midfield of like Longstaff, Willock, and I'm thinking, okay, this is still a team that's not quite kind of nailed on sort of best of the rest, 7th place or pushing for top 6. I think they're still slightly off of that, but even with those players, Eddie Howe's got them getting results and playing some really good football.
Yeah, they had 3 XG in that match against Palace,
Yeah.
which is no easy feat, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
On to the next match, Tottenham vs Fulham, 2-1 to Spurs. Mitrovic get his goal again.
Yeah, and again, Fulham slightly tricky customers for a top 6 side. I mean, obviously Tottenham dominated the sort of XG battle, but so did Arsenal when they played Fulham. I think Liverpool edged it in the opening game of the season as well, but Fulham are finding ways to sort of stay in these games, and are quite heavily reliant on Mitrovic.
Very.
Obviously. Tottenham wise, they're getting results. They've not quite fired in the way I think a lot of us expected them to. Certainly not Son. It's not been his season so far. I think I saw something that no one has a higher XG without scoring so far this season than Son, so that sort of highlights his struggles, really.
Yeah, he smashed the bar from probably like 10 yards this game, I think.
Yeah. It will come for him. It will come for him. It's just a difficult spell for him. And the best thing I can say about Tottenham is even through these 6 games where I think they've been not great at times and pretty poor for stretches as well during these 6 games, they are unbeaten. They've only dropped 4 points from out of 18. So
yep,
they'll take that. Imagine what they're going to do when they start hitting form, right?
I think what I liked in this match, they dropped Kulusevski and Perisic for Sessegnon and Richarlison. I think those two, you think they're just squad players, but they were quite good. Richarlison was everywhere. I think Conte speaked quite well on him after the game as well.
Yeah.
And he's so flexible, like the right wing, left wing, and striker. And then also with Sessegnon, you got a great backup because Perisic isn't the youngest player.
No.
Sessegnon can just do that job, and he's showing great attacking threat as all Conte wing backs do.
Yeah, and Sessegnon, to be fair, back end of last season was in good form and has been in good form to start this season as well. and it's kind of halted Perisic's march into the sort of first team.
Yeah.
He hasn't had it all his own way as we kind of thought he might do. But I think Conte needs to do this more with Tottenham.
Freshen up a bit.
Yeah, like lining up with the same starting 11 week after week after week, you become stale, you become predictable. Find ways to slightly morph that shape. Doesn't have to be, completely changing it, but you just do those sort of Tuchel style slight adjustments. Just change one or two things, match up with the opposition in certain areas or overloads, exploit some. That will make them a real team to fear, because I thought they would be more of a proposition and just haven't quite got going. But 14 out of 18, they'll take that.
Yeah, 100%. And I guess to Wolves and Southampton, Wolves pulled away with 1-0 win. Pretty close in XG. I think it was a pretty close match, to be fair. It could have gone either way. And Wolves, again, I think they've only conceded 4 goals, I want to say. I think the lowest in the league. But then, again, top side, they ain't scoring that much.
Well, we spoke about, Brentford and Leeds, how enamoured we are with those two teams. And Wolves, to me, are just the polar opposite. I will go out of my way to avoid watching them. Because, they're a team that, look, they don't give up much XG.
Yeah.
It's not like they're a team that just soaks up pressure after pressure. They're just quite dull games where nothing really happens either side for long periods of time. And this feels like how Wolves have to win games. They're not going to beat sides 3-2. They don't have the goals in the team to do that. They have to grind out 1-0s. And, Southampton seem more of a match for, we spoke about it last week, how they seem to be more of a trickier matchup for top 6 sides sometimes than some of these lower teams. Maybe they're sort of counter-pressing, counter-attacking style doesn't quite, line up as well against some of these other teams that are capable of sitting deep and soaking up pressure.
Yeah, they don't have that in possession tactics of breaking down teams, like especially a stubborn Wolves team at home.
Yeah, and they seem like a different proposition away from home, Southampton.
Yeah.
At St Mary's, it feels like a difficult place to go, but Southampton away from home, it feels like 3 points for most teams, to be honest.
They need to make games more dualistic. I think that's when they do their best. When they get the crowd going full throttle, a bit like Leeds, Bielsa kind of football. If they do that every game, they get more of a chance.
A team like Wolves that can just keep the ball and sort of just
do nothing with it,
kill the game, almost kill the game before it really is allowed to get going. And it's not the most watchable style, but it's incredibly effective against teams like that have high energy. Because they did all right against Leeds. I think it was on opening day, Wolves.
Yep.
Had the best of the early stages, neutralised the home crowd. But then, Leeds did get going in that one and whatnot. But, Wolves, they needed a win. They desperately needed that. Maybe that'll get them going this season.
It's a shame about their striker. Got an ACL injury, I think, straight away. And now
they're trying to sign Diego Costa now. And, well, if that falls through, apparently Andy Carroll's in the mix. I mean, I don't know how bad the situation has to be for Andy Carroll to be the answer, but...
Come on, Wolves. On to Chelsea and West Ham. Chelsea 2, West Ham 1, but honestly, I think West Ham deserved this win, or at least a draw. I think that VR was not the best.
No, not the best. I mean...
And they lost today as well, I think. They lost 1-0 to Dynamo
Zagreb, Chelsea. Yeah, I mean, Chelsea are struggling. We've sort of spoken about that. They don't feel all together there. West Ham are actually playing pretty good football.
Yeah.
Week after week, and they're just not getting results. I don't know if it's a confidence thing. I think Antonio, I think we've seen enough of him up front now. I think we really need to start seeing Scamacca week after week, get him involved, see what he can do. Chelsea are incredibly lucky to have 3 points from this game. But I don't hate the VAR decision because there is a stud up at Mendy. I can see why, it's been given that way. And West Ham, they had the chances to win this game.
Yeah.
They played the kind of game that they probably would have wanted to play going to Stamford Bridge. And they've come away with 0 points, and that's really been the story of their season so far. And there's a lot of teams in the Premier League, as we've spoken about, that are playing good football and getting results.
Yeah.
And there's a danger that West Ham get left behind here.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Like, unlucky, but at the same time, you got to make your own luck.
Yeah, like it's one thing to play well, but you've also got to sort of finish that off, and you've got to make the most of those performances, because you're not going to play well week after week in the Premier League. You're just not.
Mm-hmm.
And when West Ham are playing well and not getting points, it's going to be worrying when they perhaps stop playing well for a period.
Yep. And going to our final game, Aston Villa 1, Man City 1, and I don't think anyone predicted that. Aston Villa was struggling, and you were thinking Man City dominance probably.
Yeah, and to be fair, the game largely played out like that.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone would have expected Leon Bailey to pop up with a goal either. Certainly not people who play fantasy football. But yeah, I mean, to be honest, Villa almost got away with it against Arsenal in their previous game, where they played terribly for like an hour of that game.
Yeah,
scored from a corner, which should have been disallowed, but anyway, scored from a corner, and suddenly like they're leveling the game, and you're just thinking how. Because there's still major issues with Villa, and look, the last 2 games have been against Arsenal and Manchester City, so let's, we're not going to judge them on those 2. I think there's going to be games coming up where we do judge Villa a bit more, and it just doesn't feel quite right there. It's not got going at Villa.
No, but it does buy Jared more time to sort of try and fix it. I hope he can, because he did well at the start for like a brief period, and then sort of dropped back. For City, I think dropping 2 points here. I don't think the competition isn't going to be as high as previous seasons where they need to get to that high tally.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like 100 points to win it kind of a year.
But I think they'd be disappointed to drop 2 points to Villa, a poor Villa side, I think.
Yeah, and
didn't really create that many cut-through chances.
And I'm starting to worry about City as well. That I think Edison has one of the lowest shot save percentages in the Premier League. That's a follow-on from last season. That's not brand new information, to be honest. It's been something that sort of dipped in the past couple of years, but they're getting into these sort of situations an awful lot. Considering the fact that it's not even like Haaland's come in and the goals aren't quite coming.
Yeah,
is he already on double figures, or 9 goals?
10 goals now.
10 goals already.
Yeah,
you've got what you wanted and maybe more from the Haaland signing. You're scoring goals for fun, and yet you concede 3 at Newcastle and only come away with a point, and you maybe consider yourselves quite fortunate to come away with a point there. But fortunate to come away with 3 points against Palace when you're 2-0 down. Very nearly 3-0 down in that game as well, were it not be for a slightly different decision there. And then to drop points at Villa, like you said, I mean, a Villa side that's just nowhere at the moment, you have to go and get 3 points there. So it is slightly concerning for Man City.
Yeah, but I would say that the goals they have conceded are all been very low XG chances.
Yeah, well,
Palace and even Newcastle, they're quite unlucky in a sense, but it's sort of like in this game.
Quite unlucky, but I don't know. I think it feels like it feels like it did a couple of years ago when Liverpool won the league, and I think it started when Norwich beat Man City 3-2 that season, where suddenly it just felt like teams suddenly just felt a bit confident in their chances of scoring against City. They feel like a team that you can get at the moment. And again, I spoke about Laporte before, I think on last week's one, that maybe it's just that he's out. But Diaz was great last season. John Stones had a good season last season as well, to be honest, I thought. So the drop-off's a bit large.
I don't know if it's a drop-off, though. I think only the Newcastle game, you could say, they were like,
Maybe.
get run through. This goal came out of nowhere. It was like the one attack they had against Crystal Palace. It was like 2 set pieces, 1 on goal. I don't know. I think they're still very much in control of the game, and the chances they're always going to let 1 or 2 chances slip through, but they're quite low chances. Apart from the Newcastle game, where I believe like Brighton and those kind of sides, they'd be looking at Newcastle side and they'd be like, oh, we can do the same.
Yeah. I'm just comparing City to Liverpool right now. Because Liverpool seem to be in a similar sort of situation where they're kind of playing the football that they'd want to be playing, getting into the right kind of areas, but not really scoring enough goals, which, to be fair, isn't a problem for Man City. They're scoring goals for fun. That's not the problem. But they're just not quite getting the results at the moment. And, City have to start getting more clean sheets at the very least. I know Haaland's scoring a lot of goals, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just looking for an Arsenal title challenge.
I think maybe you're trying to find the cracks.
I'm trying to work it. I'm trying to maneuver it.
I mean, if we are going to talk about title challenges, I think Arsenal. I know it's still early days. I think they are up there in terms of performance, at least. If you keep that performance, yeah.
I mean, and that's if we're going to quickly talk about Arsenal, it has been every single game. The performance has been there.
Yeah.
The only thing that's starting to become a slight worry is we're dominating games, we're controlling games the way we want to, but are we creating enough chances for that domination? But we'll see how that goes. For Arsenal, October's the month. That's the gauntlet.
Yeah, when you get starting Europa League games, midweek games, is your squad big enough? Man City's squad is.
I think there's a 4-week spell when we play Tottenham, Liverpool, and Man City. So,
that's worse than Crystal Palace gauntlet.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that's our weekend wrap up for game week 6. Like, subscribe, comment below what you thought about the matches, and we'll see you next week. Ciao.
Thanks, guys.